What's up, everyone? All right, so in today's episode, I'm going to give you my watch list for Monday morning and a game plan for the week ahead. We are coming to the end of the month of July, which is crazy. Summer is flying by, but the market has been so hot. And so I guess, time flies when you're having fun. And this has been a very fun market to be trading in because we've been seeing such huge moves. Now, last Sunday, I gave you a couple stocks on my watch list, and several of them made huge moves during the week last week. So I've got one stock for you that I'm going to give you today that I am pretty certain is going to squeeze up on Monday morning. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that it's going to go without me because I think that it's going to start squeezing probably between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. during that early pre-market session as European traders and I suppose traders that just enjoy getting up very early try to trade and sort of jump on the momentum that really began on Friday. So let's pull up the screen and I'll start breaking it down. The ticker is MCVT. This is a stock that closed just under its after hours high, which was 13. I traded it on Friday when it was way down here, squeezing from 2 up to 3 up to 4. It pulled back, popped up, pulled back, squeezed into the close, and then after hours went from 6 all the way up to 13, pulled back and closed as it was surging up here at 8 p.m. on Friday. So I look at this and I'm thinking 4 a.m., boom, I'm expecting a pop. Now, I could be wrong. It's possible that 4 a.m. there's an imbalance of sellers. It would surprise me, but there could be, and it would start trading at a lower price, in which case it's bearish, might pop up for a second and drop down. But if it begins trading at or around Friday's close, most likely it's going to squeeze right at 4 a.m. Now, the problem, like I said, is that if you're not awake at 4 a.m., you're going to miss that move. Or even if you're awake, but you're using one of the commission-free brokers like Charles Schwab, you're not allowed to trade before 7 a.m. So anything that happens on it between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., it's not irrelevant, but there's not a lot of sense in getting up early to watch the action when you can't participate in it. So here's the way I'm going to approach this. I'm not going to get up at 4 a.m. just to trade this. It's not a strong enough, it may go higher, certainly, but it's not like a GameStop. GameStop, I was happy to wake up at 4 a.m. because I knew there would be so many traders jumping on that momentum. I don't expect that this is going to have a crazy amount of volume at 4 a.m. I think it'll move, but I don't think it's going to be on millions of shares of volume in those first couple minutes, the way you would see with a, sensation, like a global sensation like GameStop. So this isn't something that I would wake up early to try to trade. It'll just be what it is. But what I will do is I'll sit down at my regular time here, which is usually about 6:45 a.m. I'll start my stream, open the chat room, and if at that time this is the leading gainer, then what I'm going to know is that coming into 7 a.m. there will be a wave of retail traders that are watching it. However, if between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. it pops up and then it just starts selling off and is all the way back down to 8, then coming into 7 a.m., there may be a different stock that has taken the number one position as being the leading gainer, and it may be that one that I end up focusing on. So let me say one thing sort of at the beginning of this game plan watch list. For those of you guys who have not already done a 2-week trial at Warrior Trading, I will put a link. It'll be pinned to the top comment and in the description where you can do a 2-week trial for $20. So during that trial, you'll be able to listen to my audio video broadcast, watching over my shoulder. So you'll hear me while I'm trading. You'll see my P&L. You'll see my screen share just like this. And during your trial, when you get logged into our members dashboard, so let's go over here, dashboard. When you log into the dashboard, you'll be able to click here to enter. So this is the community and day trade dash. And so you'll actually have your own instance of this window right here on your browser. And you can move it all around. You can move the charts how you like. You could save your layout, whatever you want. You can open different scanners. And so you'll have real-time market data. You'll have charts, you'll have scanners, you'll have the news feed. So you'll have access to this platform. So you'll be able to use it and really get a sense of what it's like to be a member of our community and to use the software that I'm using every single day. So 2-week trial for $20. So make sure you guys check that out. So tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. when I start streaming, I'll most likely be watching the top, 3 or 4 leading gainers in the market. That strategy for me, it is tried and true. I've been trading that for over a decade. Looking at the leading gainers, looking at where we have momentum in the market, And then once I find a stock that's got momentum, I look at the chart and I ask myself, where can I get in? Where can I get in where I've got controlled downside risk and I've got good upside potential? And when I say good upside potential, I want the potential to double whatever I'm risking. So if I'm going to risk $1,000, it should be because I have the potential to make 2,000, and 10,000 to make 20,000, 100,000 to make 200,000. The numbers don't really matter. It's the ratios that are important. So trading is, it's very much a career, or if you want to call it a game, a performance sport, of numbers. So you've got to be very focused on numbers. And right now, if you're a trader who's losing money, you'd be like, okay, I'm losing money. But you would have metrics that sort of reaffirm that you're losing money, right? So your metrics would show that you're a losing trader. And so I would say, well, what are your metrics, right? You pull up, and if you're not looking at your metrics, then you're not getting into the numbers, which is a problem. So you got to get into the numbers. So this right here is $19.4 million of trading profits. But let's just look at the last, we'll just do this last 30 days, whatever. Last 30 days. So last 30 days, 1.1 million. Okay, so what's the accuracy? 68%. What are the average winners? What are the average losers? So what this shows me is that I've got a positive profit to loss ratio. My winners on average are bigger than my losers on average. That's great. In fact, it means that even if I was right only 30% of the time, I would break even with this ratio of 2 to 1. But I'm right 68% of the time, so I'm making money. What's my average hold time for winners? Average hold time for losers? And we could get into a little bit more detail. What day of the week do I make the most money? What time of day do I make the most money? I make a lot of money on the earlier side, trading pre-market. What price range do I make the most money on? Right now, if you were a losing trader, you might pull this up and you'd be like, wow, I lose money on stocks between 20 and up. And then that would be an opportunity to sort of recognize maybe I should stop doing this, right? So if you look at any of these and you see red, it's like, okay, is there something here I can learn more about and maybe avoid that? Now, in some cases, no, but in other cases, yes. What are some of the stocks that I've lost the most money on? Do they have anything in common? What are some of the stocks I've made the most money on? Do they have anything in common? And you start to kind of dissect your winners and your losers to better understand what's working for you and where you need improvement. Now, a big part of trading is finding your sweet spot. And I know my sweet spot very well. My sweet spot is trading the leading gainer that has momentum and buying pullbacks. So Monday morning, MCVT, that's the one that, I'm first focused on. But like I said, it's possible that by 7 a.m., 3 hours into the trading day, that I will have already missed the move. So AMGH, oops, I got to link up my chart. So AMGH, this is a stock that was up 70% after hours on Friday, popped up, pulled back, popped up, pulled back, popped higher, but it's cheaper. I usually don't do well in these cheaper stocks. So for me, it's kind of a no-go unless it can get over maybe $1.50 or $2. INMB, this one is interesting. On the daily chart, it has a gap. So the gap is from 307 until up to this low of $5. So there's no resistance until 501. So that's definitely interesting. A 14.9 million share float is a little bit higher. It is a biotech stock. It's not clear to me. Let's see. So let's just check this. So what time did it start popping up? It was sort of really later in the trading session on Friday. 4:47. Okay, an 8K filing. So I don't know about this. So announced today, additional analysis from phase 2 will be released in an oral presentation at the Alzheimer's Association in Toronto, Canada on Tuesday, July 29th between 2 and 3:30 p.m. I don't know that that's really a super significant headline. They're going to be presenting some data at a conference. I don't know. Probably not enough that I would jump on it on Monday morning, but if it goes higher, maybe. Okay, so just checking the after hours top gainers. I'm just going to jump back to the top gainers from the trading session and ask if anything there was closing strong enough for continuation. SMX, you could maybe get continuation on that. LHAI, this is the one that I Ended up losing on. I don't really want to even think about that stock again. OCTO. No, I don't think so. LIDR. It's continuing higher, but it's getting, I think it's going to be too thickly traded. It's going to be too much of a tug of war. HTOO sort of popped up and pulled back a bit too much. CREV. No. VCIG. No. All right. So I don't see anything else. So right now we just have MCVT as our sort of primary watch. Now let's look at recent reverse splits. So recent reverse splits here. Let's see. We've got HTOO, but we already talked about this one. And we already traded it last week a couple times. So this was on the 14th back here that they did the split. We had PASG already has popped up. TWG already start. See, when they've already started to pop up, I feel like I've kind of missed it. I like it when they're still selling off or flat, and then I'm looking for that first candle. NXTC has already popped up. LVLU back on the 7th of July. GBIO. It's not really as beaten up as I'd like for a reverse split chart. GNLN, that one's a bit older. CNSP. I'm just looking at the dates of some of these splits. 25 IMNN. So this is one that, it wouldn't surprise me if we see some news out on it. Let's just double check the float. So I had 14 million shares as of May 9th, right? But they just did a reverse split. So the ratio of the split was 15-1. So their float's going to be 1 million shares. So in fact, it'll be just under 1 million shares. So IMNN, I would just write it down. Just remember it. Okay, this is a stock that's, biotech stock, somewhat recent reverse split, very recent reverse split. Likely that we would see breaking news, and it could pop up. So just keep that on your watch list, right? So that's it. I'm not going to trade it on Monday if it doesn't start popping up. But if it starts popping up, then I'm already going to have it fresh in my mind. Okay. All right. So now we've got two on the watch list: IMNN and MCVT. All right. So now let's see. Let's go over to recent IPO top moving. Link up this chart as well. ANPA. Let's see. Yeah, see, this is interesting. It's just popped and continued to surge higher. It's just kind of not. The problem with this is that it's moving, but it's not a low risk opportunity up here. LHAI, we already talked about that. TLIH popped and sold off. Don't like that. Looks like a Chinese stock the way it dropped. MJID, potentially a curl, but again, wouldn't surprise me if this is Chinese. Yeah, Hong Kong. It's just something about the word majestic. I don't know. Doesn't seem like something. That's the name of an American company. So KMRK, this one did get a pop on it, but selling off more. So that one's not quite set up yet. GRAN, this one, if it has news, could be interesting. It's also Chinese. EMPG. These are all interesting for a curl, but we need a catalyst. That's the thing. We really need news. So I would say at this point, I check the recent IPO scans, I check the recent reverse split scans, and then I check the continuation scans. These are going to have a lot of the same names, but I just kind of go through it and just see if there's anything here that stands out that I've already looked at or haven't already looked at. Some of these are a little on the cheaper side. I don't see anything here that really I like. Okay, and then I can always check the low float top gainer scanner. So low float top gainer scanner, some of the biggest moves from Friday. So I just take a peek at this. and see if there's anything on here that maybe had lighter volume that kind of started to creep up. Sometimes a lighter volume move at the beginning, you might be sort of picking up on like day one, and day two is going to be continuation. TWG, right? So that reverse split off the low is starting to kind of bounce, the Hong Kong company, but didn't seem like I had news on the 25th, so needs a catalyst. So I'd say TWG is worth watching. I'm just going to write down these names so I don't lose track. So IMNN, MCVT, and TWG. So now we've got three kind of maybes, although MCVT is the one that I'm sort of the most, well, I think has the best chance of actually doing something on Monday. I'm afraid that it's going to go without me. Okay, so, and then overall market, S&P 500, it's grinding. So what I've said about this type of market action, grinding, and then you'll have some kind of like news, maybe, a tweet from Trump or something that'll just sort of rattle people, and you'll get some people that panic and sell. So you'll get a drop. And then you sort of have this sort of slow, steady. So it's the bulls taking the stairs and then the bears taking the window or the elevator. So it's like that gradual ascend and then these drops. And they can be big, but that's kind of what we should expect from the market right now. So overall market generally strong. We're at some point going to get up towards potentially like an ascending resistance level maybe, but we're still a ways from that. So as we stand right now, we've got a nice tailwind from the market, but we do have that possible risk of some uncertainty, giving people a little bit of a, sort of rattle and having a bit of a drop. But for right now, I'd say we're in a pretty good position to finish off the month of July with some more decent trades. I'm sitting, let's see, for the month of July at a little over 1.1 million, or right around there. I guess I didn't import Friday's trades yet. But in really good place, really very solid place on the month. And so at this point, let's see, I'll just pull up my metrics here. So at this point, I'm just, I guess this was that, yeah, that was Thursday. And then Friday was like 16,000. So, just kind of in a nice groove, trying to be aggressive, trying to capitalize as much as I can on this sort of hot market, and see what we can do for July. And then we're going to be rolling right into August. And, this is a summer where we've had a lot more momentum. I think that we've got a couple things going for us. There's a lot of momentum in the crypto markets. That's created a lot of sympathy momentum in sort of speculative small cap market. So, I don't, again, like as long as crypto, keeps grinding higher, I think we've got a good tailwind with that as well. So I feel like we're in a pretty good place right now, not just to get through the rest of the summer, but really probably for, the majority of the rest of the year, unless we have one of these kind of big events that just come out of nowhere. So as we stand right now, I think we're in a really good place for some nice momentum trading. Summer, will come to an end. College students, they'll go back to school. So that might reduce volume a little bit in September. And then October, November, December, historically, sort of Q4 is a strong time of the year. So, that wouldn't surprise me if we see volume come back in there. And then January, February, March, also that sort of Q4, Q1 period tends to be higher volume. Summer often is lighter, but for retail traders right now, this summer is bucking that trend. And I think it's just because of sort of the momentum in the overall markets and the speculative markets as well. So let's ride that momentum. But as always, manage your risk, take it slow. The market's going to be here for you. So pay your dues and practice in a simulator before putting real money on the line. And let me remind you, as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical. So please just take it slow. All right. So with that, I'll see you guys back at it bright and early tomorrow morning. And make sure you check out the 2-week trial if you haven't already.